Have you ever met someone who just gets under your skin? It's not that they've done anything terribly wrong to you. Maybe it's the way they talk, always sounding like they're bragging. Or maybe it's that colleague who's so painfully timid, so afraid to speak up, and it fills you with this strange, intense frustration. You catch yourself thinking about them, complaining about them, and the sheer ragcauri of your reaction feels way out of proportion. What if I told you that this intense irritation isn't really about them? What if it's a secret message, a map sent from the deepest part of your own mind, pointing to a treasure you've buried deep inside yourself? There's a legendary quote from the psychologist Carl Jung that says, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Today, we're journeying into one of psychology's most fascinating and revealing concepts, reprojection. And stick with me, because by the end of this video, you might just realize that the people who annoy you the most are secretly your greatest teachers. Let's use a metaphor. Imagine your psyche, your inner world, is a vintage movie projector filled with reels of film. These films are your experiences, your beliefs, your insecurities, your hidden desires, and, most importantly, the parts of yourself you have rejected. Now, you're sitting in the dark theater of life, and you meet someone. Unconsciously, you grab a film from your collection, usually one you don't want to admit you even own, and you thread it into the projector. You flick the switch, and suddenly, that person on the screen of your perception is no longer just a person. They are now playing the lead role in your movie. This is the essence of EJP, psychological projection. It's a defense mechanism, a clever trick the ego uses to protect itself from uncomfortable truths. We take an aspect of ourselves that we can't or won't acknowledge, our own arrogance, our own weakness, our own envy, our own unexpressed creativity, and we pin it on someone else. It becomes a problem. And by judging it harshly in them, we create a safe distance from it in ourselves. It's a brilliant, unconscious strategy for maintaining our own pristine self-image. I'm not arrogant, our mind tells us. But hey is unbearable. Think about this common example. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah works in a bustling office, and she cannot stand her coworker, Mark Startle. To her, Mark is a shameless self-promoter. He's always talking up his achievements in meetings, always making sure the boss knows about his contributions. It drives Sarah insane. She complains to her friends. He's so desperate for attention. It's pathetic. She sees herself as the complete opposite. Humble, hard-working, someone who lets their work speak for itself. Her emotional reaction to Mark is a solid 10 out of 10 on the irritation scale. But here's the twist that Sarah, and honestly most of us, completely miss. Sarah grew up in a family where she was taught that modesty was the highest virtue. Don't be a show-off, her parents would say. It's ugly to brag. So, what did she do? She repressed her own natural ambition. She learned to hide her desire for recognition, to downplay her own successes. But that ambition didn't just disappear. It was just pushed down into the basement of her psyche. This disowned part of her is what the psychologist Carl Jung would call a shadow self. Now, the shadow self isn't necessarily evil. It's simply everything we are, but have chosen not to be. It contains the parts of us we deem unacceptable, weak, or shameful. Our anger, our sexuality, our vulnerability, our laziness. But here's the crucial part. It also contains our unlived potential, our buried creativity, our dormant leadership, our hidden courage. The shadow holds the gold as well as the muck. And because Sarah has disowned her own ambition, her own desire for the spotlight, she cannot tolerate seeing it expressed so freely and unapologetically in Mark. Mark has become the screen for her projection. His behavior activates her own repressed ambition, and because she can't face it in herself, her psyche does the next best thing. It attacks it in him. The immense energy of her annoyance is the exact same energy of her own buried ambition, now twisted into judgment. She's not just mad at Mark, she's mad at the cage she's built around her own potential. So how do we start to spot this tricky defense mechanism in our own lives? It's tough, because its very nature is to hide from us. But our psyche leaves clues. The first and most powerful clue is the one we started with: a disproportionate emotional reaction. If someone's minor habit, chewing too loudly, being 5 minutes late, using a certain phrase, sends you into a spiral of rage or contempt, that's a bright red flag. The emotion is simply too big for the situation. That excess energy is almost always coming from a deeper, unacknowledged place. The second clue is all or nothing thinking, or what you could call character assassination. You don't just disagree with what someone did, you condemn who they are. It's not, I didn't like what Mark did in that meeting. It's, Mark is an arrogant, manipulative narcissist. When you find yourself painting someone with a very broad, very negative brush, you're probably not seeing the real, complex human being. You're seeing a caricature, a villain you've cast from your own inner film reel. You're seeing the projection, not the person. And the third clue is that powerful feeling of moral superiority. When you judge someone, notice that little puff of self-satisfaction. Well, at least I'm not like that. This feeling is the ego's reward for successfully outsourcing a flaw. It feels good to be on the right side, but this righteousness is often a brittle shield, protecting a very fragile part of ourselves. True self-assurance doesn't need to scream about how wrong others are. It's quiet and accepting. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Projection isn't just about the negative stuff. We can also project our positive qualities. This is sometimes called ego-positive projection, or the eye golden shadow. Have you ever been completely starstruck by someone? You see them as brilliant, charismatic, talented, almost superhuman. You put them on a pedestal and think, I could never ride or be like them. You admire their confidence, their creativity, their leadership, and it makes you feel your own lack. Often, this intense admiration is a projection of your own undeveloped potential. The qualities you idolize in them are the very same qualities lying dormant inside you, just waiting to be woken up. You project your own gold onto them because you don't yet believe you possess it yourself. That incredible artist you admire, maybe she reflects your own unexpressed creativity. That confident entrepreneur you follow, perhaps he mirrors your own buried ambition. Just as negative projection points to what you need to heal, positive projection points to what you need to integrate and become. This is the great, paradoxical gift of projection. Yes, it causes conflict and pain. It can ruin relationships and fuel hatred. But if we have the courage to look closer, it is the most direct path to self-awareness. Every irritation, every judgment, every moment of hero worship becomes a signpost pointing directly back to your own inner world. The world becomes a mirror, and the people who trigger you most intensely, they aren't your enemies, they are your messengers, delivering an urgent telegram from your soul. So, what do we actually do with this? How do we start the work of taking back our projections and reclaiming these lost parts of ourselves? It's not about never judging again. It's about becoming a curious detective of your own judgments. The process begins with one simple, yet radical shift. The next time you feel that surge of intense emotion, anger, contempt, disgust, or even fawning admiration towards someone, pause. Just for a moment. Don't push the feeling away. Don't act on it. Just hold it and get curious. Then, ask yourself a courageous question. What is this about in me Is there even a tiny 1% possibility that the quality I despise or adore in this person also exists in some form within me? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing yourself. Let's go back to Sarah. If she did this, she might ask, is there a part of me that secretly wants to be recognized? A part of me that wishes I had the confidence to speak up about my wins? This question is the key that starts to unlock the cage. At first, your ego will fight back. No, I'm nothing like him. I'm humble. He's a narcissist. That's the defense mechanism kicking in. But if you stay with the question, gently and patiently, you might feel a subtle shift. You might remember a time you wanted to share good news but held back. You might feel a pang of sadness for the part of you that you've silenced for so long. The next step is to consciously try to own the projection. A great way to do this is with a journal. You could write, I am reclaiming my ambition. I'm reclaiming my right to be seen. Or, if it's a negative trait, I am reclaiming my vulnerability. I am reclaiming my right to be imperfect and ask for help. You are taking the film reel out of the projector and putting it back in your own library, finally acknowledging that it is your story. When you do this, something magical happens. The emotional charge you feel towards the other person starts to fade. Mark might still be a bit of a show-off, but it no longer drives Sarah crazy. His behavior no longer has a hook to latch onto inside her, because she's now dealing with that energy herself. He just becomes a person at the office. The intense irritation is replaced by neutral observation, or maybe even a little compassion. She might see his behavior not just as arrogance, but as a strategy born from his own insecurity, something she can now understand. This is the ultimate goal, to integrate the shadowing, to bring the disowned parts of yourself back home, into your conscious awareness. It's about realizing you contain multitudes. You are both strong and weak, brave and fearful, generous and selfish. Wholeness isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing all of your parts. The energy you once wasted on judging others can now be used for your own growth. The ambition Sarah condemned in Mark can now fuel her career in a way that feels authentic and powerful for her. But I'll be honest with you, this is not easy work. It requires radical honesty and a willingness to be uncomfortable. It is so much easier to stay in that righteous anger, to just blame the other person. Facing your own shadow means admitting, the thing I find most repellent in the world also exists within me. That is a profoundly humbling realization. But the freedom on the other side of that pain is immeasurable. It is freedom from being a puppet to your own unconscious reactions. It is the freedom to finally see people as they are, not as who you need them to be. So, let's bring this all together. We started with the idea that the people who irritate us are sending us a message. We saw that this message is delivered through we-projection, where we cast our disowned shadow self onto others. We learned the clues to spot it: disproportionate emotions, character assassination, and moral righteousness. We also saw how we project our positive golden shadow onto those we idolize, revealing our own untapped potential. And finally, we walk through the courageous process of taking back these projections by asking, what is this in me? And consciously reclaiming these lost parts, leading not to perfection, but to true wholeness. This journey is the work of a lifetime. It is the alchemical process of turning the lead of judgment into the gold of self-awareness. It's about realizing that the outer world is just a profound and intricate reflection of your inner world. The next time you feel that hook, that intense reaction to someone, don't turn away. Turn inward. The greatest adventure is the journey into the self. And the most challenging villains and revered heroes you meet along the way are almost always, in some way, you. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more explorations into the landscape of the mind. And in the next video, we'll dive even deeper into the shadow self, and explore practical ways to befriend it and unlock the power it holds. Now, I want to leave you with a question, and I would genuinely love to read your reflections in the comments below. Were you thinking of someone who currently irritates you, or someone you deeply admire? What quality in them might just be a projection of a disowned or undeveloped part of yourself? Anundaya, what if Saul got caught?